things here that are very, very vital. Okay? We're coming back. So he says, love God and love your neighbor. And this is the whole deal. He says, do this and you'll live. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Jesus, who is my neighbor? Most of us are now familiar with the parable that we call the parable of the Good Samaritan. I've changed the title. I call it the parable of the Great Samaritan. I'll tell you why in just a minute. I want to read this, and then we're going to redefine it in a way that most of you have never heard. Some of you from here have. I preached just a couple years ago here at the church. But it's a revelation that's so big in my heart. Let's read through this. Jesus answering and said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him, and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came down where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. And he went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. On the morrow, when he departed, he took out 2 pence, and he gave them to the host. And he said unto him, take care of him, and whatsoever you spend more, when I come again, I will repay you. Which now of these 3 thinkest thou was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And he said, he that showed mercy on him. Then said Jesus unto him, go, and do thou likewise. It's an amazing story. Most of us have heard it probably when we were young kids. We know the story of the parable of the Great Samaritan, the Good Samaritan. I want to walk you through this in a light that maybe you haven't seen before. But I want to tell you that everything that Jesus says, he says with reason and purpose. There's a whole lot of things in here that are a lot deeper than we may have realized in the church before. So walk with me as we take a look at a couple of verses. He said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among thieves. The certain man here is Adam. It's not a coincidence that he says it this way. When he says a certain man, and I won't even get into all this, but in Hebrew culture, when they say a certain person, there's reference that the people in the area would know who he was speaking of. He was speaking of Adam. Adam goes from Jerusalem to Jericho. Here's the reason he uses Jerusalem. Jerusalem's called the city of peace. Everybody that would have understood in that day, Jerusalem as Jerusalem, it's the city of peace. Okay? And he goes from Jerusalem to Jericho. If you study Judges chapter 6, you're going to find that when Joshua leads the group across and the city of Jericho fell, remember that the walls fell flat after they marched around so many times? Joshua makes a decree at the end of the chapter. You know what he says? He says, if anyone would, cursed is this city. And if anyone would rebuild this city, cursed would be his family, cursed would be his kin. This is the city of the curse. What did he just say? Adam was in the city of peace, and he fell into the city of the curse. How did it happen? He fell among thieves. Come on, who's the thief? The thief came to kill, steal, and destroy. Everybody okay? Watch this. Fell among thieves. It's talking about the devil, right? And they stripped him of his raiment. What raiment? What was Adam clothed with in the garden before he fell? He was naked and not ashamed, right? Why? Because he was clothed with the glory of God. In Hebrew, the word is the kabod. It's the weighty presence of God. He was clothed in the kabod of God, God's kabod. The glory of the Lord was upon him. When he fell, what happened? The glory lifted. Now they were naked and they went and hid themselves. What did God say? Who told you you were naked? Who remembers this? Come on. So what do you got? You got Adam, who is in a place of perfect peace in the garden, but now he falls under the curse because the thief came and stripped him of his raiment. Everybody okay with that? Watch this. And they left him what? What's it say? Half dead. Ever wonder why it said half dead? Oh, he was just really bad wounded. No, he was spiritually dead, but physically alive. Oh, this is preaching now. Y'all follow what I just said? So now he's half dead. Okay? Now watch this. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way. The priest is Abraham. Okay? He's the man of covenant. Right? And Abraham comes, okay, because he's got a covenant. And he came and looked on him and passed by on the other side. Why? Because the covenant wasn't for all men. Remember that Abraham represented a Jewish covenant. God made a covenant with Abraham and all of his seed after him. If you weren't of the seed of Abraham, you weren't part of the covenant. As a matter of fact, when Jesus come, what did he tell his disciples who to go to first? The lost sheep of the house of Israel. Don't go by way of the Samaritans. Don't go by way of the Gentiles, but go rather where? To the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Why? Because they were God's covenant people. It wasn't until after the resurrection that the covenant is now going to be extended to all men. Acts chapter 1, verse 8. And you'll be witnesses unto me in Judea, or Jerusalem, and Judea, and Samaria, and unto the uttermost parts of the earth. You understand? Now the covenant's extended to all mankind. Remember that the Samaritan woman, the Syrophoenician woman who came to Jesus because her daughter was grievously vexed with a devil, what did Jesus say to her? Come on, it's not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs. Did he say that? What was the children's bread? It was a covenant with the Jews. You're not a Jew, you're a Syrophoenician. She said, yeah, but even the dogs get to eat the crumbs. Just a crumb. He says, oh my goodness, this is faith. I got to bless her. She reached out. This is so amazing, but she had faith to reach outside of a dispensation and grab a hold of a miracle and appropriate it into her day. Oh, boy, that'll preach. Abraham represented, the priest is represented by Abraham. And the fact of the matter was he could look on them, but his covenant couldn't affect that man. Y'all follow what I just said? Now watch this. This is cool. Likewise, a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him. See, Abraham saw him, couldn't do anything about it. Now the priest comes and looks on him, okay? Or the Levite, rather, comes and looks on him. It's the Levite. Because why? Because the Levites are the keepers of the law. What's the law? Moses. Moses represents the Levite. It's the law. Why does it say the law looked on him? Because the law could show us our sin. It just couldn't do us anything about it. It could show us what was wrong with us. See, Paul even writes this in Hebrews and says the law was good because it showed us that we had a place where we missed the mark. But it couldn't make any man perfect. The Levite here is Moses. The law is shown there. But it couldn't change a man's life because we couldn't keep the law. Everybody okay with what I just said? Take it a step further. So he passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was. Oh, I love this. Come on, the Samaritan. What was the Samaritan? He was really half Jew and half Gentile. Let's see. You're either Jew or Gentile. This was half Jew and half Gentile. What's it mean? One man for every man. Come on, he's one man for every man. And he journeyed and came where the fallen man was. Come on, he journeyed and came where Adam fell. Oh, now I'm feeling it. Oh, it's going to be hard. I am so trying. But watch this. He came and he came to where Adam fell. And when he came to where Adam fell, he saw Adam fallen. He saw fallen man. Come on, here's fallen man. And he sees fallen man. Watch this. He journeyed, came where he was. And when he saw him, he had compassion on him and went to him. Whew. Come on. We didn't find him. He found us. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to preach now. We didn't find him. He found us. See, I've had so many people come say, I found God. I said, he wasn't lost. You were. Come on. He found him. Jesus shows up on the scene. Come on, the Good Samaritan here is Christ. Yep. He's one man for every man. He came to where fallen man was. And when he came to where fallen man was, he brings a change. Has compassion on him, went to him, bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine. Come on. Oh, come on. The Spirit and the Word. What radically changed your life? The Spirit and the Word. The oil and the wine. Oh, the blood and the Spirit. There is so much here to this. But what he says is he pours in the oil and the wine. And it's the Spirit and the blood of Jesus that makes our life completely different. Now watch this, because this is so huge. And he set him on his own beast, and he brought him to an inn and took care of him. What do you think the inn is? Come on, man. He established the church for this reason and purpose. For what? To take care of fallen man. Oh. There is such a depth to this when we understand what he's really saying. He's saying fallen man is all around you. Take care of fallen man. He brought him to the inn and he took care of him. Why? Because he stayed for a season. He took care of him. He stayed for a season. Okay? And on the morrow when he departed, he took out 2 pence. Oh, this is so amazing to me. 2 pence. A pence was a day's wages, 2 days' wages. A day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day in the sight of the Lord. Boy, we could really get on that for a while. I don't want to. But he said, watch this. I don't know if I have a grace to get on this or not. She's given me grace. Okay. But there's a place, and we got to look at this and stop and think. He took out 2 pence. A pence was a day's wages, so he takes out 2 days' wages. And watch what he says. He gives it to the innkeeper, right? On the morrow, he took out 2 pence, and he gave them to the host, the innkeeper, and he said to him, take care of him. And whenever you spend more, if it takes a little more than 2 days, right? Okay? When I come again, I'll take care of it. I'll recompense you. I'll repay you. If a day is 1,000 years and 1,000 years is a day, he said, I'll pay the wages for the next 2,000 years. And if it takes a little longer till I get back, you take care of business till I come. Oh, I feel it now. See, I get messed up with this stuff. I'm not a projectionist. I don't try to even go here, but I will tell you some things that I know is true. I know that from Adam to Abraham was 2,000 years. I know that from Abraham to Christ was 2,000 years. There's a reason for that. What I want you to understand is this, and this is kind of amazing to me. From Adam to Moses is 2,000 years. From Moses to Christ is 2,000 years. And from Christ till today is 2,000 years. When I read the creation, the first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, what was the 7th day? Day of rest. How long was that day? If a day is 1,000 years. 1,000-year millennial reign sounds like a day of rest. I get excited over this. So when he gives them 2 days' wages, I get excited that I think, man, maybe we are that close. I'm not a projectionist, and I'm not trying to bring us to a place of fear or anything else. I'm not even trying to, listen, I felt pretty good about getting through March. I'm feeling pretty good about getting through October. Don't worry. Some of you understood that, okay? But here's where we're at, because there was a guy predicting the end of the world and all that stuff, okay? We're good till October 21st. I went, shoo, thank God. Okay, no, never mind, okay? But when I read this, and I start to see this in light of what it was really saying, Adam fell. The law came. Abraham came with his covenant. Moses came with the law. It couldn't change fallen man until Jesus showed up. But when Jesus showed up, it changed everything about fallen man. And now fallen man's been taken where? To the church. The church has a responsibility to take care of fallen man. I mean, when you really want to define this, it shows you very clearly. So he takes them out and he says, listen, if it takes a little longer, I'll repay you when I come. Which of these three thinkest thou was neighbor among him that fell among thieves? And he said to him, he that showed mercy. Jesus said, then go and do it. Go and take care of fallen man. Go and love on people. Go and love on everybody that you come in contact with. Go and take care of fallen man. See, man doesn't have a sickness problem. Man has a sin problem. It's up to you and I to change that. He said, go and do thou likewise. This so jumps on my heart. You've got everything you need to take care of fallen man. Everything. Remember that I said we're called to become love. God didn't call you just to love your church family. God didn't call you just to... We went for years, we became seclusionists. I don't know if everybody understands that or not, but we were pretty good about just having church in our own four walls, and we were pretty happy with that. And he's so breaking that mold. He is so breaking that mold. And we are so called to go out and make a difference everywhere that we go. I'm convinced this is such the will of God. See, I need to go here, and I didn't plan on going here at all, but everything you need to live and walk in victory has been secured through the blood of Christ. I'm going to take you to another place. It's one of my favorite things God showed me a while back. Go to 1 Samuel 17. I had no intention of going here, but Holy Spirit won't leave it alone. This is probably what I felt was one of the strongest revelations God ever gave me in the night. If you're familiar somewhat with 1 Samuel 17, then you're thinking, that's David and Goliath. It is David and Goliath. And how many know David won? Yay! Okay. He kills Goliath. But if you read this, and I'm not going to read the whole chapter, I just want to read parts of it. But I want to look into this. Goliath shows up on the scene, and what happens? All the Israelites are scared. Right? They're scared. Okay? I want to take you through, there's a couple of things. I guess I will go here. There's a couple of things that I really want to walk you through. When David shows up, he doesn't show up to fight in a battle. He shows up to bring his brethren some cheese and corn. Everybody okay with that? Yeah. And he shows up to do this, right? And when he does, this giant shows up. And he's like, I think 9'9" or 9'6". I have it written down somewhere, something like that. I think he's maybe 9'9" tall. And he shows up on the scene, and when he does, he's incredibly intimidating. And he shouts out some threats. Who knows the story? Everybody in the room, everybody on the internet. Everybody knows this story. Shouts out threats. Choose you a man that he may fight for you. And if I prevail against him, you'll become our slaves. But if he prevails against you, we'll become your slaves. But I defy the armies of Israel. Choose you a man. Let him come and fight with me. And what happened? They all ran and hid. And David saw it. He thinks, what's up with that? But there's something that happened right then. And I need to find the verse. Verse 25. 1 Samuel 17:25. 24 says, all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man that's come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it'll be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich him with great riches. Give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel. Now in the King James, that's the way that reads. So let me tell you what that really means. He says, whoever kills this man, the first thing that's going to happen is the king's going to make him rich. Then he's going to give him the king's daughter to be married. He's going to give him his daughter to be married. What's that mean? That puts you in line for the kingdom. You just became a prince in the kingdom. And all of your lineage, your father's house, would be free from taxation. No more taxes will be paid. That ain't a bad deal. Come on, man. Because I'm thinking, yeah, sign me up. Where do I sign? Give me the dotted line, right? Come on. Okay, now watch what he says, okay? I believe at that point, a light went on. Because David spoke to the men that stood with him, that stood by him, saying, what shall be done to the man that kills this Philistine? Everybody see that? He's like, what did they just say? Ding! What did they just say? Okay? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he defied the armies of the living God? And the people answered him after this manner, saying, so shall it be done to the man that killeth him. What's that mean? That means they said again, you'll be enriched with great riches, marry the king's daughter, and no more tax. What happened? Second time. See, somebody said, well, why did David kill Goliath? Because he defied the armies of the living God. I don't think so. I think David killed Goliath because he got a vision of the reward. Why do you say that? Read a little bit farther. Okay, go up to verse 29 because he has a little argument with his brother. David said, what have I now done? Is there not a cause? He turned from his brother, okay, just blew him completely off and spake after the same manner. What? He says, what would be done to the man that kills this giant? And the people answered him again after the former manner. Oh, you'll be enriched with great riches, marry the king's daughter, and your father's house be free from tax. Did anybody notice that's 3 times now for David? He's like, come on, give me a stone. Everybody understand that? He got a vision of a reward. So he goes out on the battlefield. Now watch this. He understands when he calls him an uncircumcised Philistine, what he's saying is a man with no covenant. He's really talking about a man with no covenant. You got no covenant, I got covenant. How many understand covenant is much better than no covenant? So a 9'9" bully versus a young kid, but the young kid got covenant. The young kid's got this thing whooped. He got no covenant, I'm in covenant. Like you're 9'9", but my God is bigger than that. Okay. David's going to go out on the battlefield because he understands, first of all, that he's in covenant. But he is going out on the battlefield. He's motivated by a vision of the reward. Everybody okay with that? I think sometimes it's okay to be motivated by a vision of the reward. I'm going to go love people because people's lives are going to be changed. But there's a part of me that causes me to want to go love people because it will please my God. I don't know what everybody's relationship with God's like. I know what mine's like. Because my relationship with God, God laughs. Me and God tell jokes. And you may think that's really twisted and weird and whatever. I'm going to tell you something. There are some times when I'll be praying, I'll just be talking to God, and I'll think of something funny. I'll tell him. Because I figure he already heard it. It's like, you thought it, it's over. He's got this one, right? Okay, it's like done. He already knows it anyway. And then I'll laugh, and I picture God laughing. See, I think God smiles. I think God laughs. I think God has a sense of humor. Why? Because I'm made in his image and likeness. I got one. I'll bet he's got one. We laugh all the time here at Harvest Chapel. I'll preach, they start, just carry on. And I love to do that. And here's the deal. I had a lady come to me early on in my ministry, and she was very upset that we would carry on like that in church. She was very indignant. Church is no place for laughing. And I thought that was the dumbest thing I ever heard. But see, she got baptized in pickle juice. she was just a sad woman. And she just thought that was a terrible thing. To me, that's crazy. I believe David was motivated with a vision and reward he never asked 2 more times after he heard it the first time. You okay with that? So David goes out and he kills the giant. Who knows? He kills the giant with a sling and a stone. Remember that he took 5 stones. And boy, there's a whole bunch you can preach here. He takes 5 stones. You know, Goliath had 4 brothers. I think everybody's pretty well heard that by now. Goliath has 4 brothers. I think that's why he took 5 stones, in case the brothers showed up, 1 each. Makes sense for me. Do you know that he said they were smooth stones? He went down to the brook and he chose out 5 smooth stones. Let me tell you something. God never puts a word in his Bible just to fill up space. He said smooth stones for a reason. How'd them stones get smooth? They were in the water. What was happening? Pressure. Constant pressure smoothed those stones. Why did he take smooth stones? Because they would fly aerodynamically perfect for the purpose for which David needed them. Do you understand what I just said? Sometimes when you're going through pressure, you need to understand something's taking off all the rough edges so God can use you for his purpose. Thank God, huh? Some of you just went, oh God, I knew there had to be a reason. But you understand what I just said, right? It didn't say smooth stones just because they were looking for good words to put in the book. You know what I mean? God's got a lot of good words he can put in his book, okay? But here's the idea. David goes out on the battlefield to kill the giant. I'm not even certain when I read it in the best translations that I can whether he killed him with the stone or not. But I know that immediately after, when the giant fell, David ran toward that giant. Y'all know that, right? And he took the giant's sword and he cut off Goliath's head. Oh, I love that picture. He cut off the giant's head. What did he do with it afterward? He took it and he put it on a post. And they went to Jerusalem. Go to the end of the chapter. I don't even know where we're at right now. Watch this, 54. Okay? And David took the head of the Philistine and he brought it to Jerusalem. But he put his armor in his tent. He brought the head to Jerusalem. It's actually on a pole. This was not an uncommon practice. They would do it with kings and different ones. But because Goliath was their giant, their warrior, they took his head, put it on a pole, and they actually parade through Jerusalem. It would have been like a ticker tape parade. I mean, they're shouting, they're throwing confetti, they're throwing babies in the air, and they're celebrating because what did Goliath say? Choose you a man that he come and fight with me. If he prevails over me, we'll be your slaves. They just realized, oh, we're not only free, now we got slaves. They're excited, they're happy, and they're celebrating what just went on. They're in Jerusalem, and there is a party in the house. This head of the giant is being paraded around on a big stick, okay, on a pole. And that's what they would have done, okay? And that's amazing. Watch this. When Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, as thy soul liveth, O king, I don't know. Okay? And the king said, inquire and find out who this boy is. For this stripling, he calls him a stripling in King James. And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, whose son are you, young man? And David answered, I'm the son of thy servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. Okay? Still got the head. If you know anything about Hebrew culture, I need to teach you some things that are become very, very important. They're at Jerusalem. Said so. Said they went to Jerusalem and they paraded through Jerusalem with this head of Goliath. Now, once the head's decapitated from the body, it is now absolutely dead. There's no question as to whether it's dead or alive. It's a dead head, right? Anything that was dead, according to Hebrew culture, they have 24 hours to get it in the ground. You understand that? So they're going to bury this head. They can't bury it within the city because inside the city walls it would be considered sacred, so they got to go outside the city walls. To go outside the city walls with the head, they got to bury it somewhere, so they buried it outside the city. And according to what we could understand, nobody seems to know where they might have buried that. I'm going to tell you, I think I know. Okay? Remember that this giant's name was Goliath. And Goliath was from a town called Gath. And they buried his head. I believe it was Golgotha. Goliath of Gath. Because Golgotha is called the place of the skull. Follow with me. Because 1,000 years later, there would one who would come called the Son of David. Oh, this is really hard now. But 1,000 years later, one called the Son of David would live a spotless and sinless life. But on that same hill, they would take him and they would put him on a cross, and his blood would flow over Golgotha. The blood would cover the place of the skull. Goliath represented everything that Satan could throw at the Israelites. He represented intimidation and fear. He represented sin. He represented destruction. He represented bondage, because he wanted to bring them into bondage. He represented everything that Satan would represent. That's what Goliath represented. But now David would defeat the Goliath, the giant, and would put his head at a place called Golgotha. And now the Son of David would cover it with his blood. What's that say? That tells me that you and I, everything you need to live and walk in victory, everything you need to live a life that defeats Satan on every turn, is now purchased and paid for by the blood of the Son of David. It has covered everything that the enemy could throw at you. Wow. You are so covered. You are so equipped. Everything that you need to live and walk in complete victory. You say, I can't love that lady. She's like the meanest lady ever. I got news for you. Yes, you can. And the reason I know you can is because the blood has it covered. See, when Jesus tells us the parable of the Good Samaritan, what he's telling us is you got the power to go and love your neighbor, because I'm going to shed my blood, and everything that the enemy threw at you is now covered by the blood. That's so powerful in my heart. That speaks volumes to me. There's a place where you and I can live in such victory. I got to tell you something. I've had these people come to me time after time after time, and they tell me, well, you know, Pastor, we all sin a little every day. I hate that. I'm so convinced that I'm a son and I never have to sin. I have a pet peeve. Y'all have pet peeves? Yes. Right? Who's ever heard of Marv Rosenthal used to have it. It's called the Holy Land Experience. It's a theme park in Florida, down near Disney. Y'all familiar with that at all? Anybody ever been there? Holy Land Experience? It's like amazing. You should go. It's absolutely phenomenal. It portrays the life of Christ in drama, but it's all day long. It's an outside park thing, and they have little dramas, little plays going on all day long, and it's amazing. So we're there. I take my family all there because we were down in Florida. I said, I'm going to go see this place. And it's like you walk into the marketplace. It's like you're walking in to the year 30 A.D. Y'all okay with that? And they're selling stuff everywhere, and it's all kind of, it's just amazing. It's absolutely phenomenal. And there's actually a place called the Scriptorium that, because I'm a Bible man, I'm a Word man. I mean, they got, oh my gosh, amazing stuff there. Bibles from way back in the Gutenberg press and all the kind of stuff. There's like amazing stuff there. I mean, absolutely amazing. If you're a Word man, you just got to go see that Scriptorium. That's phenomenal. But anyway, and you walk, it's a walking tour. You walk through the whole place. It's really, really cool. But anyway, in the process, there's about 3,000 people there, and they get them all together in the center, and they bring this historian out to talk to them. And I'm sitting there, my daughter's right beside me, Nicole, and we're sitting there, and the guy starts out with this. He starts out, well, we'd like to welcome you here. We thank you for coming and being with us. You know, we're here today by the grace of God, because really when it comes down to it, we're all just a bunch of sinners saved by grace. And I went, ugh. I have a pet peeve. I'm not a sinner saved by grace. I'm a son. I was a sinner, and then I died. Now there's just dead. And over here, I'm a son. I went down a sinner, I came up a saint. Now, you might not think that way, but I promise you, it's the word. It's absolutely true. I'm not a sinner saved by grace. And that's my pet peeve when people say that. So this man, there's 3,000 people there, and he says, we're all just sinners saved by grace. And I stood up, and my daughter grabbed me. No, Dad, no. I'm like, I'm going to stop him right now. She says, no, Daddy, please, no, you can't do this. I said, there's 3,000 people. I can teach them. She said, you're not allowed. They'll throw you out. They'll throw us all out. She's wigging out on me. I'm like, no, I got to. It's killing me. See,